Everyone has a story to tell. Welcome to DingoTalk, where we explore the experiences that make us who we are. Here's your host, Carlo Guadagnino.
What's going on, Chuckleheads? I am Carlo Guadagnino. This is DingoTalk. My guest this week is the head football coach at Dean College, Coach Luke Bakanowsky. But before we get into Coach Bakanowski's story, let's talk about Dean College. It's located in Franklin, Massachusetts. They have 1,151 students. It's $69,338 before aid, $31,472 after aid. They have a 73% acceptance rate and a 47% graduation rate. Their top three majors are business, communications, criminal justice, and homeland security. And again, as I tell you every week, if this is somewhere that you're interested in, make sure you go on the website. That's www.dean.edu. Talk to your guidance counselors, talk to the coaches that are recruiting you, talk to the coaches that you played for, talk to your family. And if Dean College is somewhere for you that you feel that you could be, reach out to Coach Bakanowsky. Coach is going to tell us his story and about the Dean program. So without further ado, this is Coach Bakanowsky. What's going on, Chuckleheads? I am Carlo Guadagnino. This is Dingo Talk. My guest this week is the head football coach at Dean College, Coach Luke Bakanowsky. Coach, thank you for joining us.
Carlo, I appreciate it, man. Happy to be here.
Absolutely. I'm excited to learn about Franklin, Massachusetts, and what goes on up there. But before we do that, we got to get your story. So, 2011, how do you find yourself at FCS Merrimack?
So, when I actually played there, we were a Division II school. So I grew up and was a three-sport athlete in Ashburnham, Massachusetts, a really small central Mass town. Played quarterback and honestly, I'm sure you talked to a lot of guys that were like this. Wasn't really sure what I wanted to do career-wise. Mm-hmm. Loved football. Wanted to make sure I played in the right type of offense, and that kind of steered a lot of my decisions. So had some success in high school. We won a Super Bowl my junior year. We went back to the Super Bowl my senior year. And when I was kind of looking at schools, it kind of varied. It was places typically in the Northeast, but it was Division I schools all the way to Division III schools. And I kind of fell in love with Merrimack, and I loved the location. North Andover, Mass was a great place to be a college kid. It was close enough to home for me, and I'm really tied to my family. And then it was really, the head coach at the time was John Perry. And John was a hell of a player at UNH. He was part of those UNH staffs where Chip Kelly was the OC. So it was as quote unquote quarterback friendly of a place that you could find. So
right.
It made a ton of sense for me. And honestly, I knew I was a pretty good football player, but even at that 17, 18 in high school, I knew coaching was something I would consider. I didn't know if it was for sure where I would end up, but I knew it was something that I would look into. And honestly, the first position meeting, so John Perry was the head coach. He called the offense and he was the quarterback's coach. So I was with him 24/7. And
right.
After my first position meeting at Merrimack as a 18-year-old true freshman that really didn't know much, I knew I wanted to coach football. So it kind of worked out perfectly for me. But it ended up being a great fit, and looking back at it now, hindsight, no regrets, would never change the decision made. So I loved everything about choosing Merrimack, playing football there, the school itself. It was a great experience.
Now, after those 4 years, why the decision to, and I guess I should ask it in a different way. Did you want to once you decided that you were going to go into coaching, did you want to branch out away from Merrimack to see if outside of your comfort zone it really was what you wanted to do? And is that how you ended up at Nichols?
Yes. I don't think and I talk to a lot of young coaches now, I don't think there's a right or wrong way to do it. I know a lot of guys do stay at their alma mater, and that's kind of how you get your foot in the door. I was kind of the opposite. I really thought I needed to go somewhere else. And my quarterback coach as a senior, Andrew Dresner, is now the OC at Holy Cross. He was like, hey, it's going to be really good for you to just be with a new group of players, a new coaching staff, see things in a little bit of a different light. Because I think being a quarterback at Merrimack, you got to be so close with the whole team. So I had so many really deep, genuine relationships with guys. It would have been hard. And I knew going into this profession, I would have been able to flip the switch, be professional. It would have been hard on my buddies that were still players. It would have been like, hey, this was 2 months ago. This was our quarterback who's out drinking beers, having a good time with us. And now he's in a different role. So for
Mhm.
me, I'm not saying that don't do it and that it's a bad decision. For me personally, I was making the choice to leave the program and kind of branch out on my own.
When and Nichols gave you a pretty for being a young coach, you got a pretty good opportunity there just 2 years in. I mean, you were the quarterbacks coach, you become the offensive coordinator there. So after those 2 years, and I have a feeling I know the answer to this one. I've done this with a couple coaches, but why was it time to come back home to Merrimack after the 2 years at Nichols?
I mean, honestly, for a few reasons, and Nichols, just so we don't jump over it, was such a great experience, and Coach Olmstead there. I mean, he let me be the offensive coordinator as a 22-year-old kid, so it was kind of being in the right spot at the right time. Our OC came up to me and was like, "Hey, I'm gonna take a high school gig. It's a little bit better for my family." So we actually had our offensive line coach at the time kind of went to Coach Olmstead and was like, "Hey, you just got to give Luke a shot. I know he's really young, but his background and kind of how he sees things, it and Dale, credit to him, right? I'm not sure I would do the same thing. He let me call it full autonomy, let me install things the way I wanted, and we had a ton of success. For me, there were a couple reasons why, and it's not necessarily I wanted to get back to a higher level or coach better athletes because I think you can get those athletes at the Division III level.
Mm-hmm.
It's more of a lifestyle change where I met my current wife when we were at Merrimack, and I told her, I said, "Hey, going into this profession, I'm going to work crazy hours, and I'm not going to make a lot of money to start." So even at Nichols, it got to a point where I was like, you know what? If this is going to be what I do for a career long term, and we want to start a family and try to build a little bit financially, it got to a point where it's like, all right, am I going to be capped out here? And I was really happy. I loved my day to day, but it was more of a financial lifestyle decision than it
Mm-hmm.
was a football decision or that I wanted to leave Nichols. So it was just kind of, hey, this was the right time to make that move.
Okay. And then what was the biggest difference from the first coaching job and being as young as you were to then coming back home after the 2 seasons, 3 seasons, and being you're the same guy, but you're not the same guy. You've grown as a coach. What was that experience like?
It was awesome, and my trip back to Merrimack was unbelievable because at that point we made the jump to Division I FCS. So you're recruiting really, really high level athletes, kids that are phenomenal football players. And at that point, the school itself had grown a ton. I think when I was at Merrimack, it was probably somewhere between 2,000 and 3,000 undergrads. When I went back as a coach, it's 4,500, it's 5,000, it's
Wow.
5,500. And it was really cool being able to see that change as I'd see all these brand new buildings that were on campus and all these renovations that were being done. So as an alum, it was awesome. Even the off the field stuff was really cool just to see the changes and the way that school was really building and growing.
Mm-hmm.
From a football standpoint, it was great. Is at Nichols, it was, hey, I was really young and it was almost trial by fire. Hey, I really like this schematically in these plays. Let's throw it together and see if it works. And at Merrimack, when I went back, Dan Curran, who was the head coach and is now at Holy Cross, he's really, really buttoned up from a game plan standpoint, from
Mm-hmm.
a schematic standpoint, is we want to have answers for everything. So it's not just, hey, let's call this and throw it out there and see if it works. Is we really, really dove into, hey, why are we calling this? Not just, oh, well, we see the Chiefs do it and it works, is I
Right.
think the game plan and we spent crazy hours there and we worked really hard, but the football piece of it, I think any good coach in this profession is you can never just kind of stay status quo. You can't just, hey, what I have works is you've always got to elevate, whether it's
Mm-hmm.
offense or defense, and keep improving every year. I think we did that on a daily basis. It was, hey, we may look different week one to week two, but it's always going to be, we know why we're doing it and what we're trying to get out of it. So that experience was great.
And then obviously you spent 4 years back home. Then it was time once again to move on. You ended up going to Endicott. Why was Endicott and then New England? Why were they the next two stops before we get here?
So being back at Merrimack and being at that Division 1 level, it was awesome. And I
Hmm.
think anybody that can get to that level and coach that caliber of athletes, you're going to enjoy it, right? Is you got guys that can run really fast and guys that are really strong. For me, I always kind of knew that's awesome, but I wasn't going to be a guy that chased these jobs across the country and was always just trying to get to the highest level. Is mine was more of a lifestyle. Hey, what's the right fit? Where do
Hmm.
me and my wife want to live? What stops can help us get there? So I remember talking to Dan our last year at Merrimack. We had a ton of success. Our grad transfer quarterback was and he was top 7 in the country in everything. So that was awesome. And he said,
Yeah.
"Hey, you're kind of at the fork in the road here." He said, "Do you want to chase this thing high level?" He's like, "I can help you get some position coaching jobs at some pretty high caliber schools." He's like,
Hmm.
"But I know you and Allison are both from Massachusetts. You want to be close to your families." So it was one of those deals. I kind of knew the answer, and me and my wife took a little bit of time to think about it. I'd rather coach at a lower level or a quote unquote smaller school and be where we want to be and feel really connected to that place and those players. So I didn't think of it as, oh man, I'm going to go from Division 1 to Division 3. I just thought, hey, this is the right time to make that step. And my end goal was always, hey, I want to be a head coach. It's not
Right.
just, hey, I want to be an offensive coordinator in the SEC or I want to make X amount of money. It was, hey, I want to be a head coach and it's got to be where we want it to be from a geographical standpoint. And Endicott was a perfect fit. As Paul McGonigal is a phenomenal head coach. He's got that thing cranked up to a crazy level. So from a resume standpoint, I knew that would look great as we were going to win a lot of games. That roster was really loaded with talent. But then again, and this was a lot of credit to Paul, I was going to learn more. Is
Hmm.
all right, at Nichols, I had a lot of success doing X, Y, and Z. And then going back to Merrimack, okay, I kind of changed the way I looked at a couple things offensively. Now with Paul, it was all right, this is far different than some of the things that I've done in the past. And we had a 10-0 regular season, which was unbelievable. We got to host a national playoff game. And then going to NEC was a big time move for me, just from a career standpoint, is Kevin Kelly, the head coach there. I mean, his resume is unbelievable. He was
Right.
the head coach at Georgetown for almost a decade, was at Ball State, Navy, Syracuse, and he's a defensive minded head coach. So when he hired me, he was like, "Hey, you full control over what you want to do offensively." And he was great to me. Is essentially, "Hey, you're the head coach of the offense, the way you want to run your meetings, the way you want to structure practice." So that was kind of a big stepping stone for me of preparation to be a head coach. And
Hmm.
he was such a big mentor for that. He'd sit me down and we'd talk about budget things and talk about things. Hey, when you meet with administration, you want to be buttoned up on X, Y, and Z. So I think that was kind of a no-brainer and was only there for a year, which means he probably did a pretty good job preparing me, but it was a really good experience.
Right. Now let's talk about the hiring process. I've talked to again a couple of coaches, but you just recently went through the process, so let's talk about it. They're not asking you about X and O's, I would assume. I would
Nope.
assume if they're interviewing for the head coaching job, they assume that you understand the game of football. What else goes into that? Obviously, I'm guessing what the plan is for recruitment, the plan of retaining those recruits, fundraising. What else goes into the conversation with the administration, and why was Dean where you felt this is the best place for me to take that next step?
Yeah, so you're spot on. Is maybe our VP of athletics asked a couple football questions because he was an All-American at Dean and he went on to play at Maine. So he is a quote unquote football guy,
Right.
but that was the least of his concerns at that point is he doesn't care about my favorite third down play call or what we're doing in the red zone. Recruiting was by far number one. And I think at this level in the Division 3 football world is you've always got to recruit and maintain that roster to a certain number. And every
Hmm.
school differs in that a little bit, but Dean was down a little bit from a number standpoint. So it wasn't just, hey, are you going to recruit hard and is effort going to be there? It's, hey, how are you going to get X amount of kids in this class? And what's the actual game plan and roadmap of how you can logistically get that done? So a lot of it is recruiting. And then for me, it was, hey, I want to give the kids on the roster, the kids that are a part of this program and community, a real college football experience where
Right.
I think there's a certain way that meetings should be held and a certain way that practices should be structured. And at the end of the day, I think when it really comes down to it is at a small private Division III school is you've got to really intertwine yourself into the community. I can't just be, hey, I'm a football coach, I'm here for our 100 guys is you've got to be really close with the other coaches and you've got to be able to step up and help around campus regardless of what the duty is. So I think a lot of it was and for me, being able to genuinely tell them, hey, I plan on being here for a long time. This is something me and my wife, it's not, hey, this is the next step. I was a little bit different probably than most candidates is, hey, you take this head coaching job and that propels you to the next. I was at the Division I level and figured for me, this was the better family decision. This was the better lifestyle move. So I think that was probably an appealing thing, but it was, like you said, it's way more recruit retain and develop once you actually have them here. How can you get those points across to some of the people on the panel are not football people, so they don't
Right.
necessarily speak the language of football coaches. So that was, I don't want to say a culture shock because I expected that, but for anybody that's going to go into this process and get luckily to get interviewed for a head coaching job, it will not be a lot of football questions.
So, Coach, talk to us about Franklin, Mass. Talk to us about where the town and Dean College as a whole, and then I have some recruiting questions after that.
Yeah, so, and I'm sure this varies depending on what you find on Google and what list you're looking at, but it ends up being a top 5 safest city in the country. And I always joke to recruits is you recruit these big, strong 18-year-old kids, they don't always care about that. But for me, being the head of the program, and when I can talk to families and say, hey, if they're walking down to the pizza place in the center of town or walking to the convenience store, I'm not going to be worried about what time of night it is or, hey, is it the right time for them to be going out there? So I think for us, that's a really big selling point. And then the campus itself, and I've worked at other places where you always hear the good coaches say this. Anytime that you're seeing construction or renovations, that's a good sign.
Right.
It's potentially an eyesore at the time. You're like, oh man, they've been doing this for months, and this still isn't done. But the college is always improving. And something that really stood out to me as I was interviewing and now that I've been working here is they're always looking to make some sort of advancement. And obviously, you got to be willing to spend money to do that. But they're
Right.
really trying to give not just the football players or athletes, but they're trying to give everybody involved in this campus the best experience possible. So it's the word easy in recruiting is not a good word to use,
Mm.
but it's been an easy enough place for me to sell. So it's from a campus standpoint, it's been really, really good.
Now, Coach, before we get into fully into recruiting, is there discussions happening? I know there's a lot of things going on in the division in the college atmosphere, not just Division III, but this enrollment cliff. It seems like we're here. It's definitely at the Division III level with the private schools. It's going to affect probably more of the numbers than your 20,000 or 10,000 student school. Are there conversations happening about the enrollment cliff and the right dean people, like bringing the right dean guy onto campus? It's not so much a quota thing, right? As you still got to have the right fit.
Yeah, I think you're spot on is I don't want to just cast this really, really wide net and take anybody just to say that we checked off a number.
Mm-hmm.
You've got to find the way that I always verbalize it to families and kids is I understand football is a huge part of their decision, but when you really boil it down is, hey, you're making a really big investment in your future. So if you can understand why Dean is worth that investment and why Dean helps you get to the places you want to be after school, then those kids are the quote unquote right kids. So
Right.
we've actually had a ton of success. And if you look, Dean does a great job advertising on their website, the financial successes they've had 24 of the last 25 years. And you can talk about all these numbers that they hit every year. I've been very pleasantly surprised with not just the success of the school, but how the number that we're hitting in this year's class. And you get to a point that you're like, oh man, we're gonna have to turn some kids away and we got to be pretty kind of stingent in what we're doing here. So I think that's probably a worry when you look from the outside. People look at
Hmm.
small private schools. You're like, oh man,
Right.
the sticker price is high. Are they going to be able to hit a number that makes that thing make sense? For us, it's obviously haven't been here long, but we've had a ton of success in this year's class, so it's been really good.
Now, Coach, talk to us about what is a bulldog? What's a dean? What's a dean guy in your eyes? What are you looking for? Minus again the for those that they like to jump on some of these comment sections. Guy got to be able to play football. Yeah, I wouldn't be talking to a football coach and asking him what he's looking for. I don't think he's looking for a ballerina.
Right.
So, minus the football aspect of that, what are you looking for in a student athlete? And kind of put us in the room when you're talking to those parents.
Yeah, so the way that I always kind of sell myself, my how I envision the program running is I always kind of think of when you're a high school prospect or a transfer student prospect and you're looking at a college, you're always going to find really intelligent football coaches. They could be a triple option coach or an air raid coach, but at this level, you're going to find guys that are bright. Professors at schools, you don't luck into those jobs, right? Those are always intelligent humans. So, what makes schools different and what kind of puts them in different categories? I always think it's a three-pronged system is football can be a huge part of it.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, the academic piece needs to be a big part of it. And then it's the campus lifestyle, geographically, where are you located, and is that advantageous to networking and meeting the right types of people? And I've been places and you talk to coaches, and I got buddies from all over the place that, hey, you really got to sell one of those prongs over the other. You're like, we really got to push the prominence of our football program because the location's not great. Or, hey, we're a really, really high academic school, so obviously we're going to sell that. And maybe you don't get the football experience you want. This is a place I genuinely think we can give all three of those. Is
Okay.
obviously with my background and I hired a staff that's been at the Division 1, 2, and 3 level. I'm not saying it's LSU and we're playing in front of 85,000 people, but the way that we structure practice, the way that we hold install meetings, the football experience that we're giving these kids is going to be the exact same as when I was at the FCS level.
Mm-hmm.
So scholarship money's different, but what these kids are going to get from a day-to-day standpoint is going to feel the exact same. So you can talk about, hey, it's a smaller school and it's D3, they only play against these teams. Is I'm going to treat it the exact same way I would as if I was the head coach of Boston College right now. So
Right.
the football experience, I think these kids are going to get exactly what they want. The academic piece of it, and I'm probably pretty blunt when I say this, and I'm always really honest to recruits, is I don't need every single guy on our team to love school. I don't expect it to be the favorite part of their day. They're going to love football. They're going to
Yeah.
love going to the weight room. I don't need them to jump out of bed and be juiced up to go to class. But everybody in our program is going to understand the importance of your degree, the importance of, hey, football is going to end. Whether you get to play in the NFL, CFL, Arena League, you are going to play your last snap of football. So if what you're doing here academically doesn't matter, then this probably isn't the right fit for you.
Mm-hmm.
And then the third part of it, location wise, and it's a little bit of a two-piece deal. Are you going to enjoy where you're at on a day-to-day basis? And that's where Franklin being so safe and nice and having countless things for kids to do, that's an easy sell. So where you go to bed and where you wake up every day, do you enjoy that? And then geographically, are you located in a place that's going to help guys network and meet the right types of people? So for us, it's under an hour to get to Boston and Worcester, so the two biggest cities in Mass, and then Providence, Rhode Island. So one, you can enjoy yourself a little bit, different things to do and go catch a game in the city, get to the beach in Rhode Island.
Mm-hmm.
But two, hey, there are going to be a lot of times that you need to get to interviews that, hey, when there are job fairs, are you in a place that the right types of people are going to have access to you? So for me, it's football can be your favorite part of the day. It can't be the only reason you're here, but I do think we can give a really high level football experience. The academics here are truly going to matter, right? You're going to get a private school Massachusetts degree that's not just a piece of paper you're going to throw away. And then you're going to enjoy where you're at because at some point it's you're home away from home for the next 4 or 5 years. So you want to
Right.
make sure on a day-to-day standpoint that you like it.
Now, Coach, have you guys been active in the transfer portal this year? Is that something that you're going to utilize? a lot of. I know that there's a kind of a split in Division three. It's not like the higher division or the Division one, Division two, where it's kind of the Wild West. The Division three transfer portal seems to be a lot of guys that, I may have gone here. It wasn't the right fit. I got recruited by Dean. I liked Dean. They were my second pick anyways. Maybe I reach back out to the coaches. Is that something that you guys are utilizing in this newfound recruitment process?
Yeah, absolutely. And it's one of those things, again, I don't know if there is a right or wrong answer. And I think that it can probably change year to year.
Mm-hmm.
For the most part, I do believe in being homegrown and really developing the guys that you're recruiting. But you're right, is even at the Division One level, the whole transfer portal world, if you have a genuine relationship with a kid, whether it's, hey, I'm really close with his high school coach, or hey, we recruited this kid at my last school. So if I was at NEC and I recruited a kid, he
Mm-hmm.
goes to the Midwest and all of a sudden he wants to come back home. All right, good. Then Dean probably makes sense for him. I know the kid, I know the family. So I don't know if I'm ever going to put a number on it of, hey, we're going to save 10 slots for transfers and the rest will be high school. It's probably going to be a pretty fluid deal, but
Mm-hmm.
yeah, I think there's definitely some advantageous pieces of it, and you can find some really good football players, but also really good kids that are going to fit the community the way you want, that are going to be a part of the program and kind of instill everything that we believe in.
So it doesn't sound like you have the feeling that, again, it depends on which coach and who you talk to, but there's a lot of people that feel that the transfer portal has basically become like, I'm not happy here, I want to go. It sounds to me as if you understand that there are certain circumstances where a kid maybe goes out to the Midwest who's from the East Coast, or goes out to the West Coast from this side of the country, and realizes, that's just not the right fit for me. I don't like being out there. Now I can come back home and I have somebody to, and you're not the only coach that I've talked to that feels that way. It's just, I've gotten about a 50 split on, we use the transfer portal. I couldn't even tell you our transfer portal login. I mean, we've gone both sides. New additions, and last year I think was the first year of it. This year, hopefully, a little bit more of the bugs worked out. The technology, the aspect that's on the sideline now, it's available up to 18 iPads. I'm guessing Dean's not going to utilize all 18 iPads.
Nope.
I have not found a coach yet that is using all 18. 10 is the highest that we've gotten to. So now, do you think that it was a matter of time before it came to Division three? Is it a good thing? And does that lead into possibly instant replay during games? I know you talked about eventually your football career is going to end. I've been using the example this season of, you get to game 9 or 10. Let's use game 9. It's the first half or second half. Kid gets called for a targeting. Now he's out for the rest of that half, plus the first quarter or first half of what could be his last game of his career. Isn't the goal to not have that happen? Don't take the time away. So do you think that we will see instant replay kind of trickle its way in now that the iPads are becoming more prevalent on the sideline?
Yeah, I don't know if I have a definite answer for it. I think your example is a perfect one. Is we're not doing it just because we're on ESPN and to fill some time slots. Is there are certain times that instant replay is almost a necessity. So if it can be available to the Division three teams, I think it's kind of a no-brainer in my opinion. The iPad stuff I think is awesome, and I do think it was just a matter of time until, hey, this kind of trickles down and all right, good. Now you've got access to this technology. Now, am I going to get to talk to my quarterback in his helmet next year? Is that going to be something that comes down the line? I think most coaches you talk to would say, yeah, it's only going to help, right? It's going to make things a little bit easier on our standpoint. I guess if you wanted to be devil's advocate and argue both sides of it is, well, the budgets at certain schools can vary in a crazy way. So if you're a
Right.
school that, hey, money's not really an issue, we can have all 18 iPads. It's going to be easy for us to buy 12 helmets that have the headsets in them. Where there's another school, it's like, man, we're gonna struggle to get 4 iPads out there. We're never going to be able to get this thing figured out. I think that's probably the part that makes it a little bit harder to implement. But
Mm-hmm.
I think the actual technology itself, I'd be shocked if coaches didn't want it.
I think, Coach, as you've talked about, you spent some time Division One and Division three. Does it surprise you that the spring ball schedule and rules for Division III spring ball are as different as they are for the other two divisions? And do we think that that change will come down the pipeline as well? Because if I'm right, it's 7 days with uppers, um, and for the shoulder pads. I always forget that sometimes I'm not. So 7 days you get to wear basically your entire uniform, and then the rest of it is, and spring ball is a very it's fundamentals, it's let's get back to the basics and all that, but it's still football. And football, the last time I checked, you wear shoulder pads, you wear knee pads and thigh pads, and you wear a helmet. So
Right.
is that something that you could see coming down to Division III and maybe changing, or is it good the way it is? How do you feel?
It's tough. I guess to answer both your questions, I would say yes. Yes, coming from Division 1 to Division 3, it kind of shocks me that it would be that big of a difference. And then two, yes, I at some point I think it changes because I know you can say, hey, well, Division 3, we're giving these kids more of a holistic deal. We want to make sure that it's that real student athlete. But
Mm-hmm.
at some point, my guys at Dean are putting in just as much work, as much effort. They're waking up early to lift as the guys at Albany right now. So why would you only be able to wear uppers for X amount of days in spring? It's again, I don't make any of those decisions, but I think for me, yeah, it's a little shocking that there could be that big of a difference. And then I do think at some point it probably changes. I'm all about the guys being safe. I think in today's world, you probably get a lot of coaches that you rarely go live. I think
Right.
last year at NEC, Kevin Kelly's like, hey, I don't even need him to wear lowers often. Like, even if we're having a pretty cranked up practice, put him in uppers. We're going to be safe. So I think if your coaching staff kind of has their head screwed on the right way and prioritizes keeping the guys safe, is I don't want to say, hey, you can be in full every single day of spring, but I think it can be more than what Division 3 offers now.
When it's funny because you almost think some of the powers that be look at it and go, "Oh, them guys in Division III, they're gonna. It's May. They're gonna beat the hell out of their athletes." And why they still gotta.
Right.
We got camp. We got a summer. We got. I'd like them to be available to me in
Yeah,
August and
exactly.
September. Um, Now, Coach, uh, let me ask this. What is for you immediate wise, what's the recruitment area? So are you guys going into Worcester and going into Boston and whatnot? Because I know Worcester at one time had Becker. Now Becker College isn't there anymore.
Yep.
So is that a big area that you're pulling from?
Yeah, it's funny because I bet you 99% of your coaches say, hey, you got to recruit your backyard, right? The top talent that's close to your campus, you got to make sure we keep them. I've honestly been a little bit different is I think there's so many really good colleges and football programs in New England and in Massachusetts in particular that it's like, all right, if we can sell ourselves a little bit differently, perfect, but that kid from Foxborough High is going to have every Massachusetts school recruiting him is we've kind of branched out a little bit. I'd say we're still going to take the top mass guys. We're going to try to get the best New England players we can, but we're really, really diving deep into the DMV, which phenomenal football. I think when I was at
Yep.
Merrimack, 80% of our rosters DMV guys. So they care about football there. They get coached up really well. So we've had a lot of success there. And I think at this point now, social media is so prevalent and it's so easy to get access to a guy from across the country. For me, it's almost more of, hey, is he the right fit? Not where is he from, but if he's a California kid, but he truly believes in what's important to me, what's important to the program, like, hey, this kid's a great fit. Yeah, he's going to have to travel from across the country, but he's going to fit everything we want. That kid almost makes more sense than a kid from Franklin High if he's like, yeah, maybe I'll come to Dean. It's an okay fit for me. Is I want the guys that genuinely want to be here.
Now, Coach, let's talk about obviously last year was an uphill battle for Dean. And this year you come into spring ball. First off, how do you, as a new coaching staff, how do you wipe that slate clean with the guys from last year? Kind of, we don't need to think about 2024. It happened, it's done, it's over with. Move on. 2025 is the focus. what is that message like from you coming in when you meet those guys and now a couple months into being a dean?
Yes, that's actually a great question because I feel like I get that from everybody. My buddies ask me all the time. My very first team meeting with the guys was on Zoom because I got announced as head coach when they were still on their winter break.
Okay.
So, and then we obviously had a follow up the first day they were on campus. I think it was really important for me to tell those guys, hey, whatever happened in the past, whether it was good, bad, indifferent, it could be about the old staff, it could be about the season, it could be about anything. I was like, we're not talking about it. I'm going to tell you how I think things are going to be run here, what's important to me as the head coach, and what we're truly going to believe in here from a culture standpoint. And they've done a great job. They haven't second guessed that. They haven't looked back because I think it would be easy for those guys to coach last year. This is the reason it didn't work, and man, this that whatever.
Right.
Everything for us has just been, hey, this is complete clean slate, and it's all moving forward. It's nothing kind of in the rear view mirror. So the guys have really bought into that, and and to be completely honest with you, I've kind of given them a zero strikes policy when it comes to that. Is because it would be hard to, I get it. It's human nature to be like, well, last year, X, Y, and Z, and this didn't work in the past. It's, well, at some point, the past is the past. It's a brand new staff. We're going to bring in a group of new players to help build this family up. So it's kind of all been, hey, I'm not telling them to be happy about not winning games and having some or not having those successes, but it's something that we can't talk about. It's not going to help us at all at this point.
Now, how did spring ball go?
Oh, it's unbelievable. I think at some point we're putting in a brand new offense, defense, and special teams. So from a schematic standpoint, is try to slow things down a little bit and at least get the base stuff in. But for me, it was going to be more so. I told the staff, hey, we're judging this off of effort, attitude, right? Communication, really just trying to set a culture, not, hey, this is the type of offense, defense is, hey, there's a right and wrong way to go about practicing. There's a right and
Mhm.
wrong way to go about how you act in a meeting room. So these guys have been so bought in that it's made me really proud. Is a lot of things we're doing are probably vastly different from what they've done in the past. And it'd be easy for them to, I'm not really sure,
Mhm.
and be hesitant about that. They've kind of just jumped in off the deep end and they're like, hey, if this is the way it's going to be, we got to buy into it now. And it's been really good.
Now, Coach, did you have any say in this year's upcoming schedule, or was that already set?
The only one for this year was our non-conference game is going to be Curry. And I've known Coach Parsons over there at Curry for a while now. So it worked out well. He was able to juggle one game around for where
Mhm.
mine was essentially so solidified that I was like, hey, it has to be week 4.
Right.
So, and it worked out great because I love Todd. He's been doing a great job over there. You got 2 private schools in Mass. It's going to be a nice little game for us. But the rest of it, it's going to be our first year in the MASCAC. It's the rest of my schedule is all conference games.
Right. Now, that's what I was going to ask you. So, does one with that week 4 hole where it was that I'm sure Curry being available that's a gift that a lot of coaches are probably going to listen to this and go, "Wow, man, you got lucky," because that week 4 everybody's in conference play by that point. It's normally week 1, week 2, week 3, and week 3 people schedule it becomes a problem. That's why we've seen Division 2 and NAIAs get scheduled for some other schools. The non-conference game, and then obviously the MESCAC. It's not an easy. That's an uphill battle with that with your conference. You guys beat the hell out of each other up there.
Right. Yeah, it kind of worked out perfect timing of I'm a new head coach here, brought in a new staff. Well, might as well have a brand new conference too. So it's kind of been good for our guys. It made that whole clean slate thing way easier. It's like,
Right.
hey, I'm not worried about an old conference record. I'm not worried about these old teams that we're not going to play anymore. Is, hey, everything's going forward now. So, but yeah, I think for about 2 weeks I couldn't sleep because that week 4 game, I was like, I'm not going to be able to find anybody to fill this.
And we've had that conversation multiple times with people. It's that week 1, everybody's looking for a non-conference, or they just don't schedule one. Week 2, you have certain teams that that they're, and then after week 3, well, good luck on finding it.
Right. Yeah. So
Um,
it worked out perfectly.
Now, Coach, a couple questions, and then we'll get into the top or the fast five. What is for you? What is the significance for Division III and Division III athletics?
Honestly, it's just, and I'm sure you get this a lot, it's just such a pure level of the sport is if you came out to one of our spring practices, it's going to look the same from a structure standpoint of, hey, they go from inside run to skelly to compete periods. How much those guys are invested in just their true love for the sport is unbelievable. Because at some point now, at the high levels, I'm sure a lot of those guys truly love football, but it's, hey, you get NIL money. And all right,
Mm-hmm.
even some of those guys, hey, well, it's the only way I could pay for school. So I had to take a scholarship, may not love football as much. The kids here, if you're going to invest all of that time and effort, care about your academics, you're not getting a football scholarship at this level, right? You can get merit scholarship, you can get
Mm-hmm.
financial aid help with the FAFSA, but there's no football coaches saying, hey, I can give you $40,000 to come here.
Right.
So at some point, it's, hey, football's got to be really important to you. So again, academics matter, right? What's going to happen after school matters. But when they're doing football activities, it's very, very evident how much it matters.
And then the last question for you. Well, not the last question, but the last question pertaining to football. Um, what is the message for 2025 and this new endeavor for Dean?
I think the big thing for me is, and it's kind of Bill Belichick-esque, right? Nick Saban-esque is I want our guys and I want the Dean football community to just kind of cancel out the noise. Is if you ask other people about Dean, it's they don't win football games. The product they put on the field isn't great. Well, none of that matters, right? Because everything we're doing going forward is different and new. So next year, if we talk, you can judge me off of what we've done, right? But at some point, it's I know it's hard for our guys, right? You got people, hey, they can't win football games. Hey, they lost a game by 60, whatever it is. None of that matters. You got to find a way to cancel that out. When we're in the football office and we're on the field, none of that matters. Whether you take it the right way, the wrong way, it's not going to help us. So I think the big thing is hey, we get guys who love football. We get guys that are going to represent Dean College the right way, which
Mm-hmm.
to be honest with you, that's more important. For me, having good human beings is going to be more important than how fast you run your 40 or what your vertical jump is. So I'm going to put a product out there that we're just really proud of our guys, the effort they put in, the way they conduct themselves. And then if they're doing things the right way, if we're coaching them up the right way, hopefully you win some games, right? And you see that in the results and the box scores. But it's really just having a product that we can be proud of and canceling out that outside noise.
And like you said, it's 4 years to prepare you for the next 40. I
Yeah,
mean,
exactly.
the goal is to get the guys walking across the stage here in a couple weeks with a cap and gown on and off into their careers. All right, Coach, it's the fast five. If you could live anywhere in the world, where would it be and why?
Hmm. Honestly, this is a kind of a weird answer, but it's got to be like Texas. And I want to be straight out of like one of the Friday night like shows or movies. One of those towns where it's, hey, they shut down when it's football
Friday
related.
night, they shut it down.
Yeah. Is I always tell families this is besides spending time with my family, I don't have those traditional hobbies of I don't ski, snowboard, fish. I love football.
You would fit in quite well in Texas.
Yeah, right.
What's the most important lesson thus far that you've learned in your career?
I think it's treating everybody with respect. And I know that's kind of a generic answer, and hey, that sounds good, but there's going to be people that have nothing to do with advancing your career. I think everybody in Dean is going to treat me with respect, right? You want to treat the head coach the right way because he can potentially help you grow. It's treating people in the dining hall the right way. It's
Right.
treating the guy that cleans our office the right way. Because at some point, even though there's stresses of coaching college football, I get to coach the sport I love for a living. We
Right.
have other people that directly affect our program and help us on a day-to-day standpoint that probably don't love their job as much. So it's treating those people with respect and making sure that they get the acknowledgement that they should. And to me, that's something that is really important is when you win big games, when you land a big recruit, those days are awesome. But the lady in the dining hall, if you get football guys to go in there, you give her a t-shirt, you tell her to have a great day, that probably made her day just as much as me getting my top quarterback recruit.
Right, right. If you weren't coaching, what would you be doing?
Oh man, nothing. uh, Probably teaching something. I think my wife's an elementary school teacher, and I really envy the way she approaches the job. And not that every day is perfect and that she loves teaching every single thing, but the direct impact that she has on the kids and the successes they can have in the future. I think teaching in some sort of capacity.
What's the best compliment you've ever received?
I think it's when people tell me that I can communicate with guys, recruits, families from all different backgrounds and different walks of life. Is I don't think you can fake that. I don't think there's a way that you're like, hey, I'm going to research the top rappers because I know this guy loves music. Is you just got to be genuine with people and build those relationships. So I think we'll have guys from really tough upbringings that are way different from guys who have lived great lives and things have been a little bit easier. Is being able to communicate and build genuine relationships with those people. Is when guys have told me that in the past, I think that is a great compliment.
The other side of compliments. What is the best insult that you've ever received? And it's not necessarily a family show, Coach. So you just
It's got to be. It was this past season. There was a dad in the crowd, and he was after the game was didn't like my play calls for whatever reason, and he went on this big rant about how he could call better plays in the Madden video game. So it wasn't just that he wasn't happy or wanted his son to get the ball. He was really going in detail about in Madden that he could call X, Y, and Z better than I could.
and I'm sure that's not the first one that has said, I played a game on Madden, so I'm a better football coach.
It's unbelievable.
So Coach, the last question, I ask every coach this to end the show. Was there a question that you were expecting me to ask you? And if so, how would you have answered it?
No, not really. I guess just talking about my background, it naturally came up. I think the initial one, if somebody looked at my resume, would say, "Hey, why leave Division One?" Which I think is probably a valid question because for most people, it's the reverse that I went. It's, "Hey, what steps can I take to get to Division One?" So for me, if and I answered it a little bit, but if you ask me, it's, "Hey, this is a family decision. I could be happy coaching at the smallest school in the country if me and my wife are where we want to be, if we have genuine relationships with the people there." So I don't think our stadium is going to hold the amount of people that we did at Merrimack, and I don't expect us to be on ESPN3 as often. But I think for what I want to get out of it from a holistic standpoint, it's the right move for me.
Well, Coach, I want to say thank you. I know that you and I went back and forth. We've been planning this for a couple of months now. I'm glad that we could finally get it on camera, and it was very nice to meet you. For those of you sticking around, you know what comes next. But I'm going to take a quick break, and we'll be right back, Chuckleheads.
Thanks for checking out this episode of Dingo Talk. Don't forget to rate, comment, and subscribe. For more info and to contact the show, you can find us on Twitter @DingoTalk.